Next, we're going to look into what we call one class activity, Moscow prioritization. Um, in fact, we can either discuss this in the tutorial sessions, or I can go through quickly over here. And then any further clarification required, you can always discuss with your tutor during the tutorial sessions. A new human resource HR leave approval system is being proposed, and the overall requirements are: first, to be able to store the employee leave history. Next, the systems need to allow for printing of leave letters. Next, the system needs to send out notification of pending leave status. Next, the system needs to allow for online leave requests via staff portal. Next, the system needs to allow remote access for staff to access to this HR system. Prioritize the above gathered functionalities of the new HR system. So what you need to do is, using Moscow, remember, must, should have, and could have, and won't have. Of course, the won't have list is not here if possible, or you can always include one. But must have, so you should identify out of these 5 requirements, functional requirements that is being proposed, which one you must have, which one you should have, which one you could have, and which one you will not have. That is the whole idea. So this list is very short. In the real world, the list can be very long. It can be even 20, 30, or even 50 tasks. Sometimes you have to merge the tasks into a very high level, into more general, rather than too specific. This is where you need to do brainstorming with your team and keep your project manager informed, so that you can have a final list, and then you can apply this Moscow prioritization. For example, leave approval system. This is not HR system, but HR leave approval system. So for leave approval system, you must understand which is the critical. For example, the system needs to send out notification of pending leave status. Could be the first must have functionality. Number 2, maybe to be able to store the employee leave history, also must have, right? So that's how you identify. Then the printing of leave letters, normally we don't print. So this one, maybe you can call either should or could. Then the system needs to allow for online leave requests via staff portal. It's like nice to have, but not necessarily must. So you can consider this as a should or could. The system needs to allow remote access. This is also nice to have, not a must. So that's how you prioritize which is must, which is should, which is could. Just for simple discussion. So in your project, you must, or for your coursework, you must do this. Okay, next we move on into project planning process. For example, you have the scope documents over here, project asset, all at the top, stakeholders expectation. We call all that as a scope documents. You have forces and trends, stakeholders, external factors such as political, environment, social, technology, external forces, factors such as competitive forces, market trends. All these are the info that you get from the information gathering selection or stage. And then also you'll be doing SWOT. Remember SWOT: strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat. So all these are information for your project. External and internal. External and internal. Internal, such as from your own internal resources, cost, schedule, your plan, performance, value, project strategy from the corporate, from the project management office, from the functional department. You collect all that. You look at the strength, you look at the opportunities, then you consider All that information will be included into WBS. You need to highlight all this information gathered into your project now as a WBS, project work breakdown structure. And then you continue to develop, continue to plan, do, and act. That cycle until you complete the project. So this is part of the planning required before you can even start work on your project. And we have discussed this many times, many times in many lectures, including last week. We managed to look at all the stakeholders that important that will have direct impact and indirect impact onto your project. So with that, let me move on to the next slide. We're going to look into what we call SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis, I'm very sure you have done this during your diploma level. Anyhow, we will go through it again here. Which stand for strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis. It is a strategic method for identifying internal strength and weaknesses of a project, external environment opportunities and threats facing that project. So by performing this analysis, you will have all this info, such as internal strength and weaknesses, external environment opportunities and threats. Commonly used tool for identifying gaps and potential for improvement in project. Okay, so this is where the chart is, or analysis is. Strength, internal, weaknesses, internal, opportunities, external, threat, external. So this is the background work required in preparing, gathering information on these areas of the project issue, and should focus on the internal factors of skills, the people that you have, your resources, asset, hardware, software, any other asset, project asset that you require for your project, or lack of them. So you look into strengths and weaknesses. List all that out. This is a very common practice that we do for any project. Then you look at the opportunities and threats. Should focus on external factors. Of course, you can look into internal. There is nothing wrong. We will not stop you to look to internal opportunities and threat as well. Sometimes the threat can be internal. But internal opportunities are manageable compared to external. That's the reason why they are requesting you to focus on external opportunities and threats over which the participant have little or no control. For example, social or economic factors, right? So it's very important, like political stability, foreign investment opportunities, technologies, foreign technologies or external technologies as a threat. So you need to look into all those factors, which normally we don't have much control over those factors. So let's look at procedures for SWOT analysis, how to carry out SWOT analysis. What are the procedures or steps in carrying out the SWOT analysis? First of all, we need to establish objective, project objective, which we would have established this at the beginning of the project, isn't it? So we need to revisit at the objective. The objective of the project issue need to be clearly expressed. Like I have mentioned many times, all of you need to be very clear, absolutely clear about the project objective. The purpose of conducting a SWOT analysis must be discussed at first with the team and consensus to clear topic must be attained. So make sure everyone is clear, no confusion, no conflict, right? So all of you must understand, hey, these are the strengths, these are the weaknesses, these are the opportunities, these are the threats. Come out with that list, share with everyone, make sure everyone understand and buy it, agree to it. The scope of the topic may be wide, narrow, general, or specific. It depends on, yeah, on the project team. Your capability, your resource availability, investment, time, and so on. The project manager needs to establish that the final outcome of the SWOT analysis would emerge from contribution and discussion and not from personal view. No matter how much expertise the participant possesses individually. Yeah? So you may have some staff members or project members with many years of experience, and they start contributing or start bringing in their personal view. If possible, don't consider or don't include any personal views into the project. It got to be view that everyone agrees, everyone comfortable with, everyone agrees and willing to go with, yeah, rather than depending on one particular person. The reason is very simple. What happens if that guy decided to quit or he has been resigned another project? Then your entire project will be affected. So don't just consider one person or one individual, and then based on this one individual, we make decision. That is not a good idea, not advisable. I'm not saying completely no. There will be a situation where you have to, sometimes no choice, but if possible, don't. Yeah, try to avoid. So that's why they're saying not matter how much expertise the participant possesses individually, but try to avoid for the good of the project. So the procedure here is establish clear objectives that understood by every team members. All right, an example of SWOT analysis for the university modular courses portal is here. In fact, this is just an example. Normally, the strength list will be quite long. Opportunities is depends. Weaknesses, well, depends as well. It's better to be short. Threat is better to be short. But just an example, huh? Let's go through this quickly. Strength, strong technological infrastructure in place, right? Everybody agree? Technological infrastructure. Student satisfaction. Students like the idea of the service. Okay, so your services must be interesting. So you satisfy students. Deliverable contents for modular courses. That's another good deliverable maybe. So that is a strength of the project. Strong brand name in terms of reputation. So these are the high level strengths that you would like to highlight or focus for your project. There will be some other strengths which are not really highlight or important or critical, so you don't have to include. These are so-called the selling points, important or must have selling points for your project. Then you also have some opportunities to look at, such as take advantage of the increasing popularity of online platform for learning. So you can consider this for your new project. Increasing use of social media with partner sites. Increase presence in graduate fairs and conferences. Marketing. Overseas partners. So some opportunities that you can consider, but not necessarily you will have it in your project, but to be considered. Then it's good also to visit the weaknesses, isn't it? Marketing, for example, dependent on word of mouth and website, which is not good enough. So you need to explore into this. how you can do better marketing, for your new project or to be included in this project. Websites purely informational and static. Static is not good enough. So you might want to consider upgrade your website into interactive, yeah, uh, so that you allow the students or parents to provide feedback instead of static. If you see most of the website today, they don't even allow you to put review or feedback or put comments, because they want others to read your comments. So they make it static. But that provides opens an opportunity. Yeah? Don't have a marketing plan. That is even worse, right? No marketing plan at all. Don't have much of marketing budget. That's another reason. So what all these considered as a weaknesses. Weaknesses. Can be considered or can be uh, considered for opportunities. And then also it's good to look at threats, external, isn't it? Threats. Other universities are offering this already, and competition is increasing. So you need to think about, hey, how to overcome this issue. Can we do differently? Like maybe taking advantage of online platform or hybrid platform. Yeah, so we have to start brainstorming what else or what differently uh, this task can be done. Another competitor has partnered with local colleges. So what else you can do? Can you do the same or better? Legal compliance as a result of Brexit, for example. So this is just an example. So you also, because this is in UK, so they consider Brexit. The British or the Britain or the UK exit from Europe, isn't it? Just an example. So this is political or economic. So can be a such example as a threat for our country as well. Yeah. So this is just an example of SWOT analysis that you can do for your coursework or for your project. Must do. This tool is a must. All right. With that, let me continue with my slide. Next slide. Define scope. Remember, one of the important steps that we discussed earlier is define scope, which is the process of translation stakeholders' needs and requirements into detailed specification of the project outcome and product. So the question now is, always we ask this question, isn't it? Oh, define scope. How to define scope? So how to define scope? There are two recommendations here. One is list deliverables and acceptance criteria. Next, create a project work statement. So normally you will include this into your project proposal. In your project proposal. In your project proposal, you will specify upon completion of this project, the below are the deliverables. So list deliverables and acceptance criteria. So you will say the system will have such and such functions, and this is what can be done. These are the deliverables of this system and the acceptance criteria by who and so. And with that, you also will write what we call problem statement, if possible, inside your proposal. You also will write what we call objective, project objective, a long list of project objective, what you want to achieve or your aim or your goal in your project proposal. And also you will create a statement, project work statement, to specify or to confirm or to satisfy your supervisors. This is your plan. This is your plan. So that is how you define your scope, project scope, project scope, or what we call scope. Yeah, it is also helpful to document other scope related information, additional information that you can include into your project scope, such as project boundaries, constraint, and assumption. We discussed all this earlier, isn't it? Project boundaries as simple as which are the department, which are the sectors, which are the, for example, areas will be included into your project. So in a simpler word, boundaries means uh, the areas, isn't it? The sectors, the departments that you will cover in your project. And assumption like exclusion, which are the areas or department or people or areas that you will not include into your project, so that anyone reading your scope will understand. They won't question you, hey, why my department is not included, why my area is not included, why this task is not included. They won't question, because your scope clearly specifying or identifying the project boundaries. And if there is any constraint that you think due to this reason you cannot do that particular task or project, please highlight into your scope. That is good. And please provide any supporting documents, references, example product specification, if possible, attached together into your project scope, or you refer to your so-called appendix. Put appendix and then you refer. Because in your project, you can have appendix. Not so much for your coursework, but for your project, you can have appendices where you can include all the supporting document. So your scope is a very important piece of section in your project. Take some time, think about it, check with your supervisor, get his buy-off upfront before you moving on with the project. Reason, if you don't do that, toward the end, you don't give surprises to your project supervisor. So continue discussion on how to define scope, list project deliverables, establish project boundaries, which are in scope and out scope, understand constraint, create scope definition, or write down the scope. Examples, we have come out with a project charter earlier, remember? The keyword, what you're really going to do for your project. For example, upgrade, may affect servers, blah, blah, blah. You have your project charter upfront. So the statement, project scope statement, version 1, example, if that is your project charter, so you can say if additional servers are required to support this project, they must be compatible with existing server. So that is a very strong statement regarding your project. Compatible, the servers must be compatible with the existing server. If it is more economical to enhance existing server, if a detailed description of enhancement must be submitted to the CIO for approval. So that is also another scope that you will work on. If the option is, if you're looking into cost, for example, see current server specification. They also recommend you to see current server specification provided in attachment 6. This can be under attachment or appendix. The CEO must approve a detailed plan describing the servers and their location at least 2 weeks before installation. Example, so this is a very clear scope which tells you where is your focus, what you're going to do, what are the options, requires whose approval, and so on. Support documents provided, and also timeline. Project scope statement version 2, the same case, but you also can write in a different way. This project will require purchasing of 10 new servers to support web, network, database, application, printing function. So you're telling like what is your aim, objective inside your scope. Virtualization will be used to maximize efficiency. Detailed description of servers are provided in product brochure attachment 8 along with plan describing where they will be located. So this is also can be a project scope. So when I read this, I understand what are you trying to do, what is your task will be involved. All work, remember, all work involved inside your project. What is your product output? Product or project product, and all the works required, and whose approval you need, and so on. So these are examples, simple example of project scope. It can be longer than this, not a problem. It can be slightly longer and more detailed than this, right? So that when I read it, when your supervisor read it, when your CIO, CEO, stakeholders read it, they have no question. They have no question. Okay, with that, let's continue on defining the project objective. We have discussed about this in previous chapters, previous lectures, but again, it's good to revisit, especially on the project objective. And also, we will touch some what we call smart project objective. Yeah. All right. Defining project objective. First of all, you make sure your project objectives are vital to planning and it is clearly defined. Allow success of project to be evaluated. So project progress must be evaluated. And that's why we use Gantt chart as a main tool to monitor the project progress, whether it is behind the time, on time, or ahead of time. Enable priorities to be set and conflict to be resolved. So we have Moscow technique, we have RACI metrics, we have Gantt chart to see the progress and the priorities set according to the sequence. And if there is any conflict, we also can resolve through all your meeting discussion, tools that you use to carry out your project. Provide direction and motivation must be published so key stakeholders are aware of them and must be smart. So these are the requirement for your project objective, defining project objective. So you must ask yourself, make sure your project objective includes all this. Must be clear, allow for success, monitoring, enable priorities, provide direction and motivation for you and the team to continue with the project. Stakeholders are aware on the progress and must be smart. So let's look at what are smart objective. I did ask this question during your tutorial session last week, and number of you are not very sure what is smart or what are smart objective. So there is a slide here. I believe after this, all of you should not, confuse or should not have uh, less understanding or no understanding on smart objective. Smart, the word smart itself, has a meaning, isn't it? Good objective are smart objective because they are, first, S is specific. There is a specific or precise outcome or deliverable, some new behavior or achievement. So important thing is the outcome or deliverable. There is a specific or precise outcome or deliverable. Unique, your project is unique. Your project is different. You can be proud of, you can highlight. Maybe current project, disruptive project, new technology, yeah, new features. So it's specific, very important. I think this is the very first specific first factors that you should consider when your supervisor or anyone asks you, what is your project all about? Try to highlight on this. My project is unique, very unique, because this is the only one. In the real world, we used to use this term, one of a kind. Remember that, one of a kind. Yeah, we use that term very heavily because you are so proud. You are very happy with your project, one of a kind. Only one, only one. Like when I was involved in the very first semiconductor company in Malaysia, we were the only one of a kind in Malaysia. So we are the only engineers trained in that field. So we can be very proud. Yeah, we can be very proud of our culture, of our company's involvement into that project, because we are the only one in Malaysia that having that expertise, that technology, trained in that technology, right? So that should be the way. Next, measurable. Progress towards the achievement of the deliverable can be measured. Yeah, measurable. What is the progress like? What is the percentage of completion for every task and every strategy, every people's involvement, and also overall project? Achievable. The objective is capable of being reached. It doesn't have to be easy or simple. It should be stretching and developmental. So that is very important objective, achievable. Don't do something that you're not achievable. Don't get yourself into the trap or into problems. End of the day, you come and tell your supervisor, sir, out of the 5 proposal, 5 points that I include in, I only can do 3. Definitely you're giving a wrong signal to your supervisor. This guy is not capable. By right should be, you propose 5, you do 6. Deliverable more than proposal. Remember, we have must have, should have, could have. Include the could have, the contingency plan into the should have or must have. Then your supervisors or your project manager will be happy with you. Achievable, isn't it? Relevant, don't do unnecessary things. The person or people given the objective must be able to have an impact on it. It needs to be sensible for them and relevant to their work. Then they will love it, they will like it, they will use it, they will come back and revisit. Otherwise, they visit once, then they don't want to come back to your website or your project, because they will say it's not relevant, useless, not interesting, things like that, right? So it must be relevant and time bound. When do we start? When we must finish? Or when will be the next review access process? So I really suggest you yourself using the SMART objective, ask this key criteria to yourself against your project to make sure you are doing the right things. Yeah, specific project, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Otherwise, my suggestion is don't waste your time. Relook into your proposal, into your scope, change it accordingly so that you have good objective for your project. All right. So I'm going to stop at this slide for today, and let's keep some time for discussion.